Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have vowed to take away your Second Amendment rights through gun bans, gun confiscation, and government regulations. Now, Joe Biden is no longer hiding his real intentions, and we need you to take action now.
Whether it's a 9mm pistol or whether it's a rifle is ridiculous. I'm continuing to push to eliminate the sale of those things. But
the Biden administration is coming after your right to own any gun. Joe Biden has already issued executive orders.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, as he did yesterday, Rob Morse of Self-Defense Gun Stories and the Slow Facts blog. Rob, great to have you along again today, man.
Well, I understand that was just a warm-up. We were going to record it. I'm sorry, we had various technical problems. It didn't go out as a podcast. So, yeah, that was just a warm-up. This is the actual first podcast of 2022. Am I right?
This is, the Daily Bullet is going out as a podcast. This will be episode 1. So if you're watching on video, look for where you get your podcasts. Look for the Daily Bullet to very soon start appearing where you normally get your podcasts. We're hoping to expand out the reach of the Daily Bullet where you normally get your. So if you can't get your Daily Bullet when it goes out live on Facebook and YouTube, and you'd rather get your Second Amendment news while you're driving to work or where you're driving home from work or taking kids to school, you can do that now. So that's something I'm really excited about.
Paul, tease this out with me. I didn't understand why video became such a phenomenon. Why are people, they've got all that time to actually watch things, and then I went, yeah, they do. We told millions of people, don't go to work, stay home. You can work from home. We put them in front of screens, and they said, okay, but I can distract myself. Thank you for watching us. And I hope you soon have to go back to work. I hope you are soon engaging fully in society, and then just put us in your pocket.
Yeah. Well, video is, tell me why television is more popular than radio. Same thing.
Right.
And somebody, I got in when I got into Second Amendment media, I got into podcasting. I've always been told I have a face for radio. I'm not denying that in the least.
Me too.
I've been told I have a voice for radio, and over the years I've worked on that. Expensive microphones help with that, and voice training helps with that. But I've always, video, I just kind of go where the popularity, and honestly, where they say I need to be. And so video is where I'm told I needed to be, so that's kind of where I am. But I've always, podcasting and voice entertainment is where my heart has always been.
Well, the reason that's so important to me, who knew it, but we're trendsetters. Well, okay, we got lucky, let's be honest. The corporate media tells us what the corporate entity thinks is important, and it has been delegitimized. Does anybody think that the people who are actually speaking on CNN do anything other than speak for the owner of CNN? Repeat that from the New York Times, through all the large major media. No, we don't. And they lose authenticity. Nobody believes them. Oh, this is the, you know what it reminded me of, and I just saw it recently, both in Russia and China, immigrants tell us, why do you guys watch the news? It's just propaganda. We go, oh, yeah, I guess it is. Well, there are exceptions, Paul. Well, somebody pointed it out to us yesterday on the show. Joe Rogan, by far and away, has more viewers than Tucker Carlson, The Five, Hannity, Fox News Primetime, Ingram Angle, Rachel Maddow, MSNBC Primetime, CNN Primetime. Combine all of those. Joe Rogan beats him.
Yep.
Probably Bongino's probably there right behind him. Dana Lash, probably. So in the sense that we see Tucker Carlson's monologues imitate podcasts, that's why he's successful.
You know, and it started at, I believe it was Phoenix Gun Rights Policy Conference. I picked this up. This has been for 3 or 4 years ago now, when we were all meeting in person for Gun Rights Policy Conference. Mm-hmm. And we started calling, or at least I started calling when I picked it up there, what used to be called the mainstream media. They started, and I still call them the legacy media.
Works.
And I call them legacy media simply because I equate it to the legacy port on your computer. It's still there. It runs things, the legacy port on your computer, it runs things that used to be pertinent that nobody's used in years, but they keep putting it there. Nobody's really sure why, but it's there.
Right.
The legacy media keeps churning. Nobody's really tuning in anymore, but they keep spewing this stuff out. Nobody's really sure why the media is still there, but they still keep there. They keep doing their thing, and they think they're still important. And you people out there, I'm so glad that you're tuning in. I'm so glad that you're listening, because you're helping make them even more legacy, even more not relevant anymore.
If you and I finally get a share, and there are now podcast apps that let smaller podcasts be commercialized. If you listen to me, no matter where you are, you will get a local advertiser on your app because it looks where the app was downloaded to target an advertiser. Fascinating to me that the technology has finally let you and I stay in business, because the ability to get paid, even in some small amount, is the reason CNN is still there. Advertisers know what they are. They're a recognized product, and Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson are less so. People go, how do I put my ads on a podcast? How does that work even? We're sorting it out day by day. Do we want to jump into the media's last gasp?
I want to get one comment in here real quick. Our good friend Charlie Chambers just made a very
thank you, Charlie.
Comment. He said, whoever created CNN 30-minute format of 10 experts yelling about 3 topics is insane. Joe Rogan is successful for having a real expert discuss a topic for 3 hours. People crave to learn and do better on average. You know, the 3 hours, I think that's a stretch. Rob, you and I have done 3-hour Polite Society podcasts, and that's painful, both for the provider and for the person listening.
Can I offer a counterexample, Paul?
Yep.
When you and I were at GRPC, we would, a couple years, fill in color commentary. For the Gun Rights Policy Conference, someone would come in, say something, some we knew, some we didn't know, both personally and what they said, and then we'd go, wow, do you remember how important this was here, here, and here? Try and fit it into the meaning of the year. And then someone else would speak, and we'd repeat that. We'd have guests. Paul, we did that 6-7 hours a day, and it was easy. There was too much material. The issue was, how do we condense it down to the 4 or 5 minutes we have between speakers?
Right. Right.
Yeah, people.
That's a once a year thing, and that yeah, but doing it weekly for 3 hours, man, that's painful.
If we had, Paul, again, let me argue with you. If we had speakers of that quality, no, it would be easier. It would be easy. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you to think about that. Can we jump into this article by Giffords and put it in context?
Yes.
Do you remember that the billionaire Michael Bloomberg ran media conferences on how to cover gun violence. And at one point when the media was tanking, he said, you know what, I could subsidize you. And now he bought his own PR firm, The Trace. Watch what corporate media did. Starting September 15th, an article by Giffords. America's gun owners are insurrectionists and a threat to democracy. Okay, December 29th, USA Today. Gun rights activism is extremism and not in the American tradition. Newsweek, December 31st. Millions of angry armed Americans stand ready to seize power if Trump loses in 2024. We're called a threat to democracy. New York Daily News, January 3rd. The gathering coup of 2022 will further test democracy. Okay, this media barrage makes perfect sense. Argue with me, please. Please give comments because I'm a little bit alone here. We see the corruption of big government, of big media, and the political parties. It's getting ripped open and exposed. A lot of people are upset about that. They had a system that worked. Powerful elites would buy politicians in the media, and we believe them, and it's not happening that way. Gun owners are not a threat to society, but we are a threat to authority the same way that podcasts are a threat to authority. We stop politicians from using force. We make politicians talk to us. Gun owners in the United States make governments obey their own laws, obey their own rules, because they can't use force. That's really inconvenient. Guess what? We want it to be inconvenient to use force on the American public.
Amen. One thing I want to do, we're a little over 12 minutes in. I want to bring up, if I could, we did get one piece of real Second Amendment type news come down today, and that is the ATF. Well,
right.
It seems like they're making up rules as they go along. Now the apparently starting in March, you're going to have to, if you have a gun store, you're going to have to sell safes now. Well, or you're going to have to sell ways to secure firearms as well as selling firearms. The reason that's a big deal is by telling businesses what they have to sell, and what they have to keep in inventory. Inventory is expensive. When you stock things, you have to pay for them, and if you have something sitting there that you're not selling, that is expensive. You could be putting something out that is selling, and that's making you money. If you got something sitting there that's not making you money, that's costing you money. I hate to say they're trying to run gun stores out of business, but this is not making it easier to stay in business. What do you think, Rob?
Well, okay. If you read the weasel words, and now, of course, how will it be interpreted? FFLs will be required by the BATFE to have a product that, quote, can store a firearm and is designed to be unlocked only by means of a key, a combination, or other means. You remember those $6 cable locks?
Mm-hmm.
That's all they need to do. They need to have them available in the store. I don't know of an FFL who doesn't, because lots of stores won't sell you the gun. Here, we want, in fact, in California, it's been a requirement. Here's a way to lock it up. By the way, you never need to use it, but they're required to sell it. The NSSF routinely says, if you don't have a way to lock it up,
We'll
lock
send
up
you
your firearm,
a cable lock.
we'll give you one for free because it's important that you can secure your firearm. I get it. Um, I wonder if this is just politics, Paul. Meaning, oh yeah, we did something for gun control. I'm helping. Um, or will they interpret that to say, oh no, you have to sell combination locks. You have to sell all these other sort of storage devices. Is this another way to drive kitchen table FFLs out of business? I don't know.
Yeah. I got a couple comments from Pete over at Gun Websites. Let me get these up here. Hit that, and then he says, those attempts to spin narrative indicate we are winning. They show, speaking of what you were talking about earlier, they indicate we are winning. They show their hand. They know they need to address changes, that they are on their way out, thanks to efforts of DC Project, Girl and Gun, Well Armed Woman, etc. Their old anti-gun narratives are worthless. Yeah. And then
Isn't that fascinating, Paul? It's easy to demonize old white men. You
yeah.
gun owners, you old white men were not, where young brown women were everyone, everywhere. And now they're going, ooh, that old meme didn't age well. Yeah, he's right.
John says, every new gun I buy contains a cable lock from the manufacturer.
Right.
The only one I bought, I'm not going to say it didn't. I just don't remember it having one. I bought when I brought my Smith & Wesson M&P 15. I don't remember it having one, but that doesn't mean it didn't have one. It just remember. Right. I just say, this has been a few years, and there's been a stroke between here and there. I don't remember there being one, so. There may have been.
Your comment.
Lord
Go
knows
ahead.
There are enough cable locks from other guns around here that if I wanted to put one on there, it could be there.
You and I could be a source for cable locks for our friends for quite a long time. And that's our concern. If they say, oh, you have to sell gun safes or you're not an FFL, ouch, because you're absolutely right. Space is at a premium in many of these smaller gun shops. But the guy goes, see, got one of these. I got a gross of them. For you, special deal tonight. Love me sell you long time.
Yes.
Where do we want to talk about the strict gun laws not helping again? I thought that was playing to the same meme.
Let's. There's one story I put in. I don't know where it went to, but let me see here.
Oh, 10-day waiting period?
There was a story by Tom Knighton that I wanted to talk about. There was an attack in California. A bunch. A bunch of thieves were going to do a smash and grab on I believe it was a jewelry store in California.
It was. And, I'll move it up for you. It's right there. What's that?
I see it.
Okay.
Let me open that up.
I started writing that up for self-defense gun stories. Thank you for pulling that up. 4 guys come into a jewelry store. There's a fifth waiting in the getaway car just outside. They're going to do a smash and grab to keep everybody compliant. They come in with a couple of cans of bear spray. Mm-hmm. Start spraying it around. The store owner is evidently at the far end of the room for maybe good luck, maybe great planning. He's not sprayed immediately. He has a gun. He presents it, and all of a sudden the 4 bad guys go, whoops, this was not the robbery we planned.
We've got better places to be. Let's get there.
And they jump into the car, and I'm going, there's a 5-passenger car? Who in the trunk? Anyway, off they go. Now, what
They
the
weren't
stories...
getting in a smart car, that's for
They
sure.
were, right. This was in Upland. It's between San Fernando Valley and LA, so in the LA area. They never mentioned video, but the cops knew within a couple of minutes that, oh, we recognize these guys. 2 of them are wanted for warrants. 1 of them's wanted on an outstanding federal warrant. They identify the 4th guy. They're looking for the 5th. And I'm thinking, if the jewelry store didn't have video, maybe a neighboring store did. And as they either got out of their car or for some reason, I think it's pretty clear they had these guys on camera.
Yeah, and we try to keep topics pretty much on Second Amendment rights here, but I'm going to tie this a little bit into California does, unless you've done something, stole something $995 or more, they don't lock you up. They don't.
Right.
There's no bail.
Right.
And so, and you have to actually, I think I may be talking out of somewhere that I shouldn't be talking out of, but I think you actually have to have stolen something. Attempted robbery doesn't count. So,
well, you've certainly got everybody on assault by spraying everybody in the store with bear spray.
right.
Assault and battery,
They're not
sorry.
locking people up anymore. So it leaves people out to try and try and try again until they finally do something
Succeed at
that
stealing.
they will get locked up for.
Gotcha. On the other hand, this is far enough away from LA. That sheriff may be locking people up.
Yeah.
You get up to Vacaville, it's yeah. What's interesting was that this small business owner said, I can't let you steal at will from my store. I'll go out of business in a heartbeat. And he goes, okay, we got to carry here. What I wonder is, and what I hope, is he had one of those epiphany moments. I was lucky. Had I been at the other end of the store, I'd have gotten a face full of bear spray, at which point me drawing a gun is a problem because I can barely see what I'm doing while I'm trying to breathe. I need my other employees armed as well. Having a gun is virtually a requirement if you work in a gun store, if you work in a pawn shop. There are a number of firms that are, come on, get on the team, you carry, often openly. I hope they start doing that at jewelry stores in California.
Well, and Vacaville, you're much more, because you're a former Californian. Recovering Californian, is that maybe the term?
There you go. That's a good...
Vacaville, is that in a county that is more permissive in their issuance of permits?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know which county Upland is in. Now, again, to carry in his jewelry store, no one needs a permit.
And the story did say he was legally carrying, so.
Right.
All right. Let's see here. Let me get a couple more comments in here. Going back to the 3-hour podcast thing here, Charlie Chambers says, podcast challenge. Have John Lott on for. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Either one of those guys could easily carry on for 3 hours.
Yes.
Both John Lott, Tom Gresham, Mark Walters. Yes. Well, think of it. For you and I, it's a stretch. You know what they call that, Paul? Tuesday?
Yes. Well, Gresham calls it Sunday, but Chris Connell says, couldn't a workaround for the safe argument be they sell them custom made to order? Don't have to keep an inventory, but selling the safe to the customer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, Chris, what makes sense isn't at issue here, because you make perfect sense. The issue is what would the ATF require under the letter of the law? Because it's not their money, it's not their lawyers.
All right. One more comment here, and that is Larry says, we simply need a wool law. So when under attack, the attackers are legally bound to stop. One or more can retrieve a firearm or call the police. Yeah, exactly. You have to stop now so I can call the police. Yeah, that'll work, yes.
Well, the great news is none of the customers were shot. They were sprayed. That's terrible. Oh man, you're having a very bad day. The good news is none of them had asthma, because there are people who won't take being sprayed with bear spray very well. They weren't there, so no permanent injuries. But it could have been worse. Let's learn from it. And in theory, a lot of people they'll read the news and go, Paul, here's something that the media misses. Are gun owners empathetic?
I don't know if they're empathetic. I'd say they're at the very least sympathetic.
Okay, good point. And I'll call that a distinction without a strong difference. Maybe if our listeners can review it for us. We're sympathetic to the victim. We go, wait a minute. I work in a store. That could have been me. A millionfold and 80 millionfold now. So we do imagine that we're not special. We're just like our neighbors. We could be the victims of crime, and we go, wow, I don't like what happened to him. I don't want that to happen to me and my family, my employees, my coworkers. We're not sold that way. We're sold as caring about a firearm. I don't think that's true. I think we care about people.
Amen. The firearm, and we say this on Polite Society all the time, the firearm's just a tool. That's all it really is. Susan and I own several firearms. We own several handguns, couple different, actually a lot of different rifles, shotgun, but I'm not really attached to any different special one or another.
Right.
And I know how to use them all. It's okay, but it's not like I don't look at any particular firearm like I look at a 1968 Challenger or a 1973 Mustang. I don't have that kind of attachment with firearms. They're just, for me, they're just tools. That's it.
They're just tools. I think you're absolutely right. They're tools that help keep my family and my coworkers safe. We learned that from our neighbors. Now, isn't that interesting? Paul, you learned that from the gun culture when you first were being taught how to carry, what guns do. That was you saw that attitude, and you modeled it, I'll bet.
Somewhat, yes. I learned a lot of what I know, and I'm giving a huge shout out. I hope she's either watching or will listen when this comes out on podcast, to Kathy Jackson.
I would have guessed.
A lot of my attitude around firearms I get directly from her. She was the first professional trainer that I was able to convince to come up to South Dakota. So yeah.
We've got only a minute. I don't think we can talk about the 10-day waiting period.
Let's
got to close.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. But one more time, I want to remind everybody, start looking. If you're a podcast listener, start looking for the Daily Bullet very soon, where you look for where you get your podcast. That way, if you're not able to catch it live on a daily basis, you can catch it at your convenience whenever. And Rob, you do your own self-defense gun stories podcast, and you help me out with Polite Society.
Yeah. By the way, where were we going to find the Polite Society podcast again? Will that be out again?
Yes, it is starting last night. Just to explain to everybody, when I had my stroke, a lot of things fell by the wayside, and with that was the syndication of the Polite Society podcast. That is back. Libsyn, I got everything straightened out with my syndicator, which is Libsyn, and that is out. iTunes has it up. As of today, it's out. If you just search for Polite Society Podcast, or go on to if you go on to Facebook, I will on Polite Society Podcast Facebook page here in just a few minutes. I will put the subscribe link on the Polite Society Podcast Facebook page.
Can I give a shout out before we close?
Do it.
I host the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. I try and keep that under 20 minutes. Comes out once a week. A snack food of a pro-gun podcast. And with Paul, I co-host the Polite Society podcast. What, we have 6, 7 co-hosts on that, Paul?
Mm-hmm. They kind of float in, float out.
I blog at slowfacts.wordpress.com. From there, the writing's often picked up at AmmoLand, where I get to write the weekly Armed Citizen column. Paul, thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. One comment on the way out. Smeggy says, guns are tools, but it's still okay to be in love with your guns. I am. It is. It absolutely it is. Just as it's okay to love your 1973 Mustang. That's okay too. I would probably be myself more inclined to love the Mustang than a Glock, but I can understand both. So that is going to do it for us. Thank you everybody for watching. For those of you who are on podcast listening, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.